한번 그 소개 같은 거를 알려주실 수 있나요?
기존의 PVP 진행되던 구조가 상대방의 입력이 서버를 경유해가지고 다시 돌아올 때까지 기다려야지만 하는 방식이었는데요. 이번
What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and in today's video we have a very special topic as we are going to be going ahead and bookending our coverage on the Boss Syndrome Volume 2 events with today's video where we are going to be going ahead and giving our full thoughts and opinions on all the good, all the bad, all the broken that came along with this update. So before we jump into all of that, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. So first things first, this will be piggybacking off of our coverage from last week, so for those of you who missed any of those videos, links will be in the description, make sure you check those out. But I figured in the interest of summarizing everything and giving our full opinions, we would go ahead and do today's video, and then we can go ahead and bid this event adieu. So, first things first, what we're going to go ahead and do, even though they are technically not part of the Boss Syndrome Volume 2 content, is we're going to cover the 2021 Spring and Early Summer events. So let's go ahead and start out with everybody's least favorite game mode in the entire world, the False Calamity Orochi Yamada No Play event, because yeah, this thing was a whole lot of fun, wasn't it, guys? So as you can see here, and I am going to spend as little time on this as humanly possible, which at this point is pretty much tradition for me for this event, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, if you checked out my video last week covering this event and talking about how it was an absolute mess, then you would know that, yeah, I was not a fan, but also ever since doing that video, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I forgot this thing even existed and stopped playing it. So the reason for that is because this event, for those of you who have not tried it, I would not blame you, it is broken. So basically, you think that you're going in, you're fighting this 8-headed serpent dragon, and you know, you think, okay, Yamada Dragon boss, that's pretty cool. You know, this event could be neat. We get to play co-op with some friends, with some guild mates, or whatever the case may be. And then you actually try and play the lunatic difficulty because you want those extra hammers that they promise you for playing with your friends, and there's really no way to get through it without your friends. So hey, you jump in and you try your best, you bring in your best favorite character, whatever you do, and well, then you end up realizing after you've cleared it that, hey, guess what? The game decided that you're not allowed to beat this event. So hey, great stuff. Yeah, and so for those very reasons, I decided that I am not even messing with this thing anymore, and apparently Netmarble did the same thing, because ever since this thing dropped and has been bugged from day one, Netmarble has been completely quiet, said not a word. They haven't even addressed it. So I'm assuming that now that we are down to the final 24, 48 hours with this event, that they are just going to pretend it never happened and move on. So it's a good thing that those rewards for this event were garbage, because to be honest with you guys, all those stones, yeah, like we said in that video last week, not even worth it. So it's a good thing that they didn't release the double attack stones or whatever the case may be with this event, because I'm sure that there would have been a lot more people up in arms over what happened with this thing. And it really is unfortunate, because as much as I would like these co-op dungeons to work, I know I've said that in the past, unfortunately, it just seems like because of the new netcode that they rolled out for PvP, it kind of translated over to this event as well, because to be honest with you guys, those last few co-op dungeons we had, nowhere near the amount of problems as we had with this one. So I'm assuming it had everything to do with the new netcode, which they're still in kind of a beta phase with and trying to figure out. So hey, you know what? I guess this one got thrown out with the bathwater, so it's one of those things where maybe they'll bring it back down the road and we'll actually be able to enjoy it the way it was intended, but for now, this event was a complete dropped ball, and yeah, I'm giving this one an F, because yeah, it's barely playable. You can still get through the early difficulties without as many headaches, although I will say that you'll still sometimes have bugs here and there, even with the expert difficulty, so it is what it is, right? Like I said, at least we didn't need any of these prizes that came along with this thing. As much as it would have been nice to have the extra hammers, which to be honest with you is probably where most of the things that I feel like I missed out on are, you know, it is what it is. There's not much I can do about it. There's really no reason for me to even bother trying to get through this thing on a daily basis at this point. So in the interest of saving myself time, I decided to just ignore it. As far as the rush dungeon goes, because we can move on from this stupid thing, like I said, this thing sucks and I'd never want to look at it again. When it comes to the rush dungeon, it was a rush dungeon. I enjoyed the actual shop for it. There's actually some pretty good stuff in there. So being that we could buy those extra hammers every day, that kind of made up for the fact that that False Calamity event was as much of an issue as it was. So overall with the rush dungeon, I can't really fault it. It's a rush dungeon. It's just something that you add to your homework list for this game on a daily basis. So really not anything to talk about there. Rush dungeons in general tend to be pretty much cut, copy, paste, so not a whole lot to complain about with it, but I would say that that in-game shop for that event was actually pretty darn good. So for those of you who had missed out on that, well, I'm sorry, because you missed out on quite a few hammers that you could have gotten there, because really that was the big draw of that entire dungeon. Now, there is one big issue with it though, and this is where we're going to get into the topic of the stones, because that is a very big issue that plagued this event. So when they decided that they were going to bring back the boss syndrome stuff, everybody got excited, right? Because a lot of people, being that that first run of the boss syndrome characters only lasted a week, were very upset that they weren't able to pick up those characters. And being that we got a second chance at life with these, a lot of people got really excited, especially when we saw that the Volume 2 characters were going to have the same system implemented for their stones as the Volume 1. So everybody kind of assumed at that point that they were going to have the second chance at those stones for the original BS characters, being Rugal and Orochi respectively. So everybody kind of assumed, okay, well, I'll be able to get the stones. The stones were one of the big reasons why these characters are so good. And then they were wrong, because Netmarble said, ha, hold my beer, and here we are. So a lot of people were really upset by this, by the fact that they could not get those stones for awakening these characters again. A lot of people were even more upset when they realized that the boxes inside that rush dungeon for that exchange shop were mystery boxes for the stones. So it actually compounded that issue and made it to where people who got these characters and went for these characters this time around pretty much had no control over the stones that they would be able to put on them. And that really, to be honest with you guys, took the wind out of the sails for this entire event. You know, you can say what you want about the rates, that's one thing, but I feel like that a lot of the reason why people were so upset for this event when it dropped was the fact that if the rates would have been that, then that would have been one thing. Rates are whatever the rates are. But when it comes to the fact that people were already pissed off about the fact that they couldn't get those stones for those characters, I think it pretty much just blew the wind out of the sails of this event, which is really unfortunate, because it was pretty much dead on arrival at that point. It was almost a foregone conclusion that the forums and everywhere else were just going to have a thermonuclear meltdown, and that's what happened. So it's really unfortunate. I really hope that Netmarble learns from their mistake on this, because there's no reason why they shouldn't have brought back that system for these characters again. It's not like people who already got these characters and already invested could double dip in any way. So really it would have been nice if they would have implemented it again, because it made no sense as to why they would strip it out. And I think a lot of people were really rubbed the wrong way by that, and I can't blame them. I would have been upset too. It really does take away a lot of the bite of these characters not being able to get these stones. And even then, that original run of stones, a lot of those, some people would really like to put on these new boss syndrome characters. So it's really unfortunate that the boxes that we got were mystery boxes. It's even more unfortunate that we weren't able to take advantage of that same system the second time around. I get the fact that they probably want to give people incentive on the first run of these characters to feel like they need to go for them. You know, the whole fear of missing out, we wouldn't want to miss out on some FOMO. But at the same time, you got to realize from an optic standpoint, optically it looks terrible. It makes you look very, very underhanded to people, and it really does disappoint your player base. And to be honest with you, I don't really ever see any reason why you would want to disappoint your player base. So in my opinion, that was a big fail, and it really is unfortunate because this event could have been so much more than it actually was. Now, all of this isn't to say there weren't things about this event that I didn't enjoy. There's actually quite a bit in this event that I love. So realistically, if I'm being honest, the two Boss Syndrome characters that came out with this event, being Geese and Krizalid respectively, I love them. I think they're phenomenal. In fact, I think Krizalid is one of my favorite characters to play in this game currently. You know, when it comes to both these characters, I was extremely hype upon announcement. We all pretty much assumed that once we found out we were going to be getting a Boss Syndrome Geese, that it was probably going to be Nightmare Geese, and once we got confirmation, I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I was excited. And Krizalid is another cool character too, so both of these bosses were characters that I was very excited about. You know, it was, like I joked at the beginning, the edgiest of all edgelord banners. And to be honest with you, the banner itself, probably one of my favorite banners they've ever released. I love these two characters from a design standpoint. I think that they put a lot of love and attention, especially into Krizalid. And really, to be honest, pretty cool stuff. But here's the issue. They decided that these two characters were going to outright be broken. And I'm not saying, okay, this is where I'm probably going to step on some toes. Geese is okay. So Geese is a really good character, but I don't feel like Geese is broken. Geese is on that kind of OP level, right? Very overpowered, very, very good, even borderline broken in things like Immortals, right? In Immortals, I don't even think that there is a fest team that I can take in with him that he's probably just not going to ram through this Immortal, because I have taken any number of teams in and he just decides that because of his leadership skill, he's just going to say no to the boss and it's just going to die. He's really good, but I don't think he's broken. But Krizalid, on the other hand, my God, what were they thinking? So I'm going to be as blunt as possible with this. Krizalid on day one, I told you guys I felt like he was the better of the two. And I even said, I went as far as to say that I felt like Krizalid was a little too much for the game. And I still stand by that. In fact, I would say that that has only cemented itself in my head since being able to play with this character just that much more over the course of the past week. This character is just the absolute nuts. And so when it comes to this character, I will say that I honestly am happy he is. And here's why. I am happy that I can actually enjoy Guild Raid again. Because let's be honest, Guild Raid has sucked for a while because it feels like so much homework, it feels like such a grind. It's honestly something that I think a lot of people kind of ignore on a daily basis anymore too, because they feel like, oh my God, I just gotta keep logging in, I gotta wait for my keys, I gotta time my keys, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. For people who don't have very high level teams, it can be a giant chore getting through Guild Raid. And even for me, when I had all the characters I needed to get through Guild Raid, it was still a grind because I didn't feel like doing it every single day. Now that I have Krizalid, it's the easiest thing in the world. Just take Krizalid in, solo it, be done, walk away. So Krizalid as a quality of life character has really changed the way I play the game on a daily basis. But at the same time, I also accept and understand that he is a little too much in his current state. I do not think that they ever intended to release this character and outright break Guild Raid, because I can't constitute a character as being balanced if it is able to completely and utterly replace an entire team of characters. With Guild Raid, the one nice thing that you could say about it at the time was the fact that at least it required strategy, it required plotting, it required thinking. In its current state now with Krizalid, if you have an Awakening level 3 Krizalid or higher, yeah, guess what? Guild Raid no longer takes strategy. It's literally just take Krizalid in, put a Akane set on him, and just go. And so really, it feels a little heavy-handed what they did with him. I do think that they could have done a lot more to balance that character, because especially considering the fact, as we talked about in that breakdown that I did on these characters, Geese has some pretty interesting little kind of quirks to his kit that balance him in such a way to where he is not completely and utterly overpowered. But with Krizalid, even with the things that you can tell are supposed to be there for balance, he ignores them. Like the fact that he has grabs. He actually uses those to his benefit against characters that can't be grabbed. So with Krizalid, there's just a lot going on his kit, and I really do think that the face of the game itself has completely changed now with these two characters, because whereas before with Guild Raid and Immortals, we felt like, okay, well, that's the end game content. You know, you have to build up these teams, you have to build up your roster if you want to get through it, unlock all your rubies that are locked behind there. Anymore, if you have these two characters at a respectable awakening level, you can pretty much just use them to pad out a team, and you can one team half of this stuff. And it's kind of ridiculous. I do think it has taken away a little bit of the fun and a little bit of the strategy of those modes, and some people might dispute that those modes were ever fun, and that's okay, that's their prerogative. However, in my opinion, I did enjoy them. And I enjoyed them for the reason that they did require all of that thinking and all of that plotting and all that strategy, but now you get none of that. So it's kind of unfortunate that they decided to go this route with these characters. I understand the idea, and I understand the origin story behind the boss syndrome idea in the first place. However, there's a line, right? And once you've crossed that line, I feel like it's very hard to backpedal on it. And so now that they've kind of opened up Pandora's box with this power creep with Krizalid, where he has, and I know that I talk about Krizalid a lot, but guys, you've got to understand, there is no legitimate reason a character should be able to go in and be doing 600 million damage solo, even without a striker. It doesn't make any sense. It is the most ridiculous thing, and it really does, I do really feel like it does hurt things just a tad when it comes to the strategy and the overall just kind of pacing of the game, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. It just doesn't feel like it should have been the case. It feels like this character is a little too much, and yes, he does have his drawbacks like any character, but when they're so minimal by comparison to the pros that this character carries with him, then I don't know, it feels like it's too much. But I know a lot of people were upset that Krizalid was so much better, seemingly, than Geese, but I don't know, Geese is in a really good place. I think Geese is really good, and honestly, Geese kind of broke Immortals in and of himself because of that leadership skill. You can now just bring him in with any group of attack type characters that are respectable awakening level and pretty much just plow through these things. Trust me, I've been doing it on a daily basis, because just like Guild Raid was a grind before, Immortals used to be a grind, and now that I have Geese, I don't even need Krizalid on the team. I just bring in Geese and put a respectable team next to him, and I just run through these things. So, you know, for the quality of life, there is something to be said with these two characters, that they do make these things in the content that were a little bit more difficult and a little bit more of a time dump a lot easier, but at what cost, right? Because at the end of the day now, we have to understand that really the end game content of PvE, because I still consider PvP to be kind of more so the end game than anything, because again, this is a fighting game at its core, even if you're somebody that doesn't enjoy PvP, and in the current state of PvP with all the issues it has, you know, that's an entirely different topic. But now I wonder where we go from here, because now that they've introduced the power creep that they have with these characters, I wonder what the next event, the next mode that they are going to introduce is going to bring along with it, because they're going to have to ramp it up from here. And I really do not know what that means for the game, where they are going to take it, what that is going to look like. I'm cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, I'm also very interested to know what they have in store for us the rest of the year, because if these characters are anything to go off of, then I would say that we are in for one heck of a wild ride with some of these new characters. And I really do think that if anything, this new banner has really proven that, to be honest with you guys, as much as I hate to say it, the unified banner is pretty much on life support, and I think that Netmarble's about to pull the plug. So that's pretty much where that is at this point. I might do a video on the unified banner as a follow-up to the original video I did on it. I'm still thinking about that. I don't know, but that's kind of where that is at. And really, with as cool as these characters are, I still do believe in balance, and I just don't see much balancing going on here. But as far as the cards go, it really does feel like they were trying to just punch Immortals right in the face with this update, because bringing in these two characters alone was enough to make Immortals kind of just a meme at this point. And this card set really did donate a lot to that, because when you take a look at this card set, there's really no better set in the game for Immortals now than this set. I firmly believe that this is basically what Serena is to Guild Raid for Immortals, and yes, as much as I would like to say this is not a necessary card set, it is still a huge boon to your account if you have it, because if you're somebody that is still having issues with Immortals, if you pick up this card set and attach it to one of your fighters, being the fact that your entire team is going to be able to take advantage of this 10% increase to the target's damage received, you're going to have a lot easier time getting through that. So the card set itself was very, very strong, and even the option card, because now we kind of know what they're going for with these Boss Syndrome card banners, right? Because this one was very similar in the way that it performed to that Rugal card that we got with that original option card from the first Boss Syndrome run. So being that this one actually affected blast skills, this just helped make characters such as Geese just that much more ridiculous. And I love the art, I will say that, but these cards were actually low-key really, really strong. So everything that came along with this event that was added in for kind of the cards, the characters, the so on and so forth of that, all those things were very, very powerful and very, very good. It's interesting to me that despite giving us 10k free rubies, that they decided to release this good of content right after a collaboration. To me, that is still a little sus. I would have liked to have seen them wait a little bit longer to do that, because I do think that it would have helped people out quite a bit. But at the same time, I am not going to sit here and not give them credit where credit is due. I'm very glad that they gave everybody those 10k free rubies. They gave us that BS memory for the generic, although the one thing I will say that comes out of this event that I do feel like has been kind of lost in all this is they didn't give us any indication yet on how they plan on implementing those generic memories for the Boss Syndrome characters on a long-term basis, if they even intend on doing so at all. So we're still waiting on bated breath to hear about that, to see what they're doing with that. I really hope that they give us a definitive answer on this at some point soon, because to be honest, a lot of people are really upset about not being able to get dupes for these characters, and I feel like a really good way that they could make good on that and kind of appease people and make up for some of the issues with this event would be to go ahead and figure out a way to implement that sooner rather than later, so that people would have a fair chance at those. But at this point, I don't have a whole lot of faith that they aren't just going to go, hey, by the way, here's a $80, $100 in-game package in the secret shop that you can buy, and it has a generic BS memory in it or something like that at this point. It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me anymore. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much my thoughts on this event. Overall, I think it's a great big mixed bag. I think that out of all of the different events that we have had over the course of the past year and a half or 2 years or whatever it's been at this point, this one here had so much potential, and I really do feel like that it didn't reach that potential. I think that there were just too many issues, especially when you take a look at the state of that Orochi event, when you take a look at the fact that they decided that they weren't going to bring back the system for awakening the original Boss Syndrome characters to get their stones, the way they decided to give us mystery boxes for the Boss Syndrome stones, all these different things, the fact that the crafting prizes for that stupid Orochi event were just not good. There's a lot of stuff in here that really just wasn't great, and as much as I would like to give this a good passing grade, I just don't feel like in my heart of hearts I can do that. As much as I enjoyed this event myself, I get where people come from. I did get pretty lucky on my polls, and I've heard a lot of people that got the exact opposite of what I got, so I feel for you guys. I'm sorry. I wish that they would do better with some of this stuff, but it is what it is. Hopefully they give us some sort of correspondence on something here soon. I have a hard time believing at this point this close to the end of some of this stuff, being that we're a week away from the Boss Syndrome characters themselves going away, and we're about, 24 hours, 48 hours away from this stuff ending, that they're going to give us any type of information that is going to be any make good on any of this stuff. So it is what it is. But I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this event as a whole. Let me know in the comments section down below. As always, I appreciate all of you for watching today's video. If you found it informative, if you enjoyed it, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. I'm Theo, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Continue.